We are up to the Gemara on Daf Beis Amud Beis, 3 lines down. The Gemara is quoting the Mishnah. So we spoke last time. The Mishnah has given me 2 examples of where I did not do Eid Zomim. 2 examples where you don't do Kasher Zamam. You don't specifically do what they try doing to you. So we discussed last time the example of if somebody said somebody's a halal. The second example of the Mishnah is if my friend and myself and my friend, we testified about Reuven that Reuven is chayiv to go into Gullus. Again, that means is, we said that he killed somebody by accident. It was not on purpose. He needs to go to an Ir Miklat. Ir Miklat is a city where you go, and that's where he stays the rest of his life, basically, until the Kohen Gadol dies. Again, we'll discuss that at length, a different time. Now, the Gemara says, but the halacha is, you do not do this to me. What happens is, I get malchus if I'm caught. So Gemara says, how do we know these words that you do not do kasher zamam to me, but rather I get malchus? Basically, the Mishnah says, we can't give you kasher zamam, so, okay, but at least give you malchus, which we'll talk about why you get malchus. But the Gemara is trying to figure out, why do I not go to Gullus? Seemingly, I should have to go to Gullus. The Gemara answers, Amar Reish Lakish says, the Amar Krat, the Pasuk says, quote, when it's talking about going to Gullus, somebody who kills by accident, it says, Hu yanus elachas ha'arim. He, who, specifically him, will flee el achas ha'arim to one of the cities. If you look at that pasuk, it's talking about somebody who kills by accident. It says, this person will flee to one of the cities. He goes to flee, to run away, and he has to stay there. Now the Gemara makes a very simple drasha. Who, him, put that in quotation marks, him, velo zomim, and not edim who were caught lying. So in other words, the pasuk is an extra word in the pasuk. It should have said yanus ala chasarim. We know who we're talking about over there. We're talking about the murderer who killed by accident. So we learn from there only a murderer goes to Gullus, but edim zomim do not go to Gullus. It's a specific pasuk in the Torah told me eid zomim does not apply to this. It's one of the few exceptions. That's the first answer. And again, we're not coming to discuss why you get malchus. Right now, we're just discussing how do you know I do not get eid zomim. I don't get kasher zamam. You don't do back to me what I tried doing. Rabbi Yochanan Amar kal v'chomer. Rabbi Yochanan says it's a kal v'chomer. Listen to his kal v'chomer. Umahu sha'asa ma'isa b'mezid eno gola. If a fellow killed somebody b'mezid, mahu sha'asa ma'isa. If somebody did an action b'mezid on purpose. I'm not going to do a testimony, but Reuven actually killed Shimon. We know. Reuven killed Shimon on purpose, b'mezid. Rashi says, even if, for whatever reason, he's not being put to death, there's some technical issue, he's not put to death. Eino gola, he does not have the ability to go to Gullus. He's not chayiv to go to Gullus. We know if somebody kills somebody, he is put to death. He gets the death penalty. If somebody does it by accident, he goes to Gullus. What about somebody who did it on purpose, but for whatever reason, let's say you didn't give him hasra, you didn't give him a warning. He does not get put to death, so it's a legal loophole that he does not get executed. On the other hand, he does not go to Gullus. So, Rabbi Yochanan is saying kal v'chomer as follows. Somebody who did an action on purpose, he did an action, he actually killed somebody, he did it on purpose, he does not go to Gullus. So, hain, these edim zomim, these 2 witnesses, my friend and myself, who testified about Reuven, we did that on purpose. Shlo asim, I said, we didn't do an action. I didn't kill anybody. I said something. Words is not an action, seemingly. B'mezin, and we did it on purpose. Einu din shlo yiglu is not a kal v'chomer, we should not go to Gullus. In other words, the kal v'chomer Rabbi Yochanan is saying is as follows. If somebody did you did something on purpose, but you did an action, which is a horrible thing. You killed another Jew. You did it on purpose, you did an action, you don't go to Gullus. So that all I did was, I didn't do an action. I spoke words. I did it on purpose, but I spoke words. Is it not all the more so I should not go to Gullus? The guy who killed him doesn't go to Gullus. For sure, I don't go to Gullus. To which the Gemara, and therefore, if I get caught saying that Reuven killed Shimon, and I get caught by accident, right? I said he killed him by accident. So just like if somebody, kal v'chomer, somebody killed somebody, he doesn't go to Gullus on purpose. I, who did an action on purpose, I'm a rotten person because I did this on purpose. but it wasn't an action, all the more so I should not go into Golus. So this is how Rabbi Yochanan wants to explain, I do not deserve to go to Golus. To which the Gemara asks, V'hi anosenis. He means this itself, nosenis, dictates. The Gemara is saying, no, exactly what you're saying. That's specifically the reason. This is not a good Kal V'chomer. Again, what are you saying? He killed him, and he doesn't go to Gullus. So I, who didn't kill him, is it not all the more so I should not go to Gullus? The Gemara says, no. Exactly that distinction is the reason why I should go to Gullus. What does that mean? Who sha'asa ma'isa b'mezid? This fellow, if we're talking about a regular case, when somebody killed somebody b'mezid, lo ligli, he does not go to Gullus. Ki hechi, so that lo tahavle kapara, he should not have a atonement. He doesn't deserve an atonement in this world. If he specifically went and killed somebody on purpose, he doesn't deserve the kapara, the atonement of going to Gullus. But hein, two edim, shelo asu ma'isa, we did not do an action. All we did was, seemingly, we just said words in Beis Din, which is a bad thing. But in the scale of bad things, it's not as bad as killing somebody with your own hands. B'mezid nami ligli, we should hein shelo asa ma'isa b'mezid. We who did not do a ma'isa, even though we did b'mezid, nami ligli, we should go to Gullus. Ki hechi, so that tilahave luhu kapara, so we should have an atonement. What the Gemara is saying is as follows: going to Gullus is not necessarily a punishment. It is a punishment. When somebody kills somebody by accident, it is a punishment. You need to go to Gullus and stay there until the Kohen Gadol dies. It might be 10 years, it might be 5 years, it might be 60 years, depending on when he dies. Not only is it a punishment, but it is much more than that. It's an atonement. You're going to live out the rest of your life in exile. That atones for the sin you have done. So the Gemara is saying your Kal V'chomer is not a good Kal V'chomer. If somebody killed somebody with his own hands, he's a rotten guy. He does not deserve to go to Gullus. But me, I'm a bad person. I spoke bad testimony about Reuven. But on the big scale of things, I didn't kill him with my own hands. Maybe I should go to Gullus because I deserve a kapara. In other words, what the Gemara is saying, you were trying to bring me a Kal V'chomer that the guy who's so bad, he killed somebody with his own hands, doesn't go to Gullus. So me, who's not as bad, all the more so I should not go to Gullus. The Gemara is saying, Hi anusenis. That itself is a reason why I should go to Gullus. Because the Gemara is answering, Gullus is a kapara. So the less sin you do, the more reason why you should be going to Gullus. Therefore, the Gemara is saying, this cannot be the reason of why I don't go to Gullus. Excuse me. Because this Kal V'chomer seemingly what is not true when all I said was testimony. I didn't kill the guy with my hands. And maybe I should go to Gullus. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Ella mechavarta, rather it's clearer, kid Reish Lakish. It's better to learn like Reish Lakish, which is that the reason is because of the pasuk hu yanus. It says him, he goes to Gullus, but not an Ein Zomim. Good. So that was an explanation of the Mishnah. So now we are done. We basically, based on what we learned last time and what we learn now, we now understand the Mishnah. We know all the time you do, it boomerangs back at me. Whatever I was trying to do to my friend, I'm going to get that punishment. The two exceptions are if you said the guy's a halal. So we learned last time why that's true. And now we're learning today the second case. If you said the guy goes to Gullus, there's a pasuk in the Torah. It says only murderers go to Gullus, not Eid Zomims. Good. It's a pasuk. Fine. Now the Gemara says Amr Ula. This is really a new thing. Amr Ula. Ula says Remez le'edim zomim min haTorah minayin. Ula said, what's a hint to Eidim Zomim from the Torah? Where do I find a hint to Eid Zomim from the Torah? Minayin, where do I know from? Again, Remez le'edim zomim, a hint to Eid Zomim min haTorah from the Torah Minayin. It sounds like Ula is saying like there's some obscure parsha about Eid Zomim. Where do we find a hint to it? At least like a little drasha, something. To which the Gemara immediately attacks him, and the Gemara says, Remez le'edim zomim? A hint for Eid Zomim? Vaksiv, but it says, quote, Vasisim lo kasher zamam. It says, do to him like he planned to do to his friend. Gemara is asking, what? This is a mefurish, a pasuk. This is a pasuk in the Torah. You don't ask a question like, where's a hint to this? This is a specific pasuk in the Torah, so I don't need a hint. Just read the words. It's exactly what it says. So the Gemara says, no, it's not what he meant. Ella remez le'edim zomim shalokin min haTorah minayin. Rather, what he meant to say was, where is there a hint that you're lokim min haTorah? Where's there a hint that you get malchus? Show me in the Torah a hint, and this you won't find specifically anywhere. You won't find clear in the pasuk. Where does it say that if I cannot do kasher zamam, if I can't do back to you what you tried doing to your friend, you're going to get malchus? Ula is asking, where's the hint for that? Show me that. Where does that come from? Minayin, where does that come from? Rashi explains that. That's what's going on over here. Any place where I'm not doing kasher zamam, like our Mishnah, the two examples, where's the hint that at least you're going to get malchus? Because seemingly malchus is nothing. Where did malchus come from? Why don't you just slap him on the wrist? Where did you get this concept of getting malchus? You're not doing kasher zamam, so don't do anything. So Ula is asking, where's the hint? Ula is saying, I know in the Torah it says kasher zamam, when you get caught, we're going to do exactly back to you what you tried doing to your friend. But where's the hint to the fact that if I cannot do kasher zamam, then I need to at least give you malchus? Where's that? So the Gemara answers, Dichsiv, it says, the pasuk says, quote, V'tztiku es ha-tzadik, v'ershiu es ha-rasha. If you look in, let's see the Chumash, the pasuk in the Chumash inside, it's Devarim Perek Chavhei, pasuk Aleph. The pasuk Perek Chavhei, pasuk Aleph, in Devarim it says, Ki yariv bein anashim, if there's a fight between men, v'nigshu al mishpat, a fight between two men and they come to mishpat, they come to a court case, they come to Beis Din. Ushvatum, and you will judge them. V'tzdiku es ha-tzadik, and they will make righteous, the righteous one, v'ershiu es ha-rasha, and they will make the rasha a rasha. Again, I'm reading the psukim in the Chumash, Devarim Perek Chavei pasuk Aleph. So basically, this is a little bit of a funny pasuk. It sounds like it says, if you come to a judgment and the judges make the tzaddik a tzaddik and the rasha a rasha, then it says, v'haya im bin hakos ha-rasha, you'll hit the rasha. Then basically you punish him. The next pasuk says, basically there's psukim which talk about malchus, which we'll learn about in the third parak. Arbaim yakena means you hit him 40 lashes. So basically says, you make the guy a tzaddik. The pasuk sounds like Beis Din will judge. This guy will be the righteous guy. This guy's the rasha, and then he gets malchus. To which the Gemara says, let's go back in the Gemara now. It says, to which the Gemara says, Mishum v'tzdiku es hatzadik v'yeshius harasha, just because you made the tzaddik a tzaddik and you make the rasha a rasha, v'haya im bin hakos harasha, then you're going to give malchus to the guy? So Rashi explains, what the Gemara means to ask is, it sounds like the pasuk reading of the pasuk is, a court case comes in front of you, you said this guy's innocent, this guy's guilty, he gets malchus. What? Rashi explains, the Gemara's question is, every time a guy's guilty, he gets malchus? Let's say the guy's guilty $50, he owes Shimon $50, so he gets malchus? Well, what does the pasuk mean? Any time you're guilty, you get malchus? The Gemara says, is that true, right? Every time it's tikus a tzaddik v'sirish rasha v'hayam bin akos rasha, then you're going to hit the rasha. Why are you hitting him? Not every time you get malchus. Ella, there's something deeper going on over here. It says like this: Edim shershiu es tzaddik. What it's referring to is witnesses. Shershiu es tzaddik. We made evil a tzaddik. What's that referring to? It's referring to our example. My friend and myself. We walked into Beis Din. Reuven over here is a tzaddik. He's a great guy. We were marsheh him. We made him into a rasha inappropriately. We said a lie about him. And then other witnesses came. And they re-justified him. And they turned us into Rishayim. In other words, what the Gemara is explaining, there's a lot more going on in this pasuk. The pasuk is saying as follows. There's a couple of words missing. If you come to a judgment, and me, my friend, and myself, we said about Reuven that he's a rasha. Two other witnesses come, and now listen to the words of the pasuk. They said, you weren't in Yerushalayim on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. You were in America at that time. It's impossible. What were they doing? They were v'tzdiku es hatzadik. They re-gave this guy his justice. They justified the justice fellow. They made Reuven off the hook. V'ershiu es harasha, and they made us rishayim. In other words, the tables got turned on us. We were trying to make Reuven into rasha, and we were looking like good guys. We're coming to say testimony. Two other witnesses come in and they turn the tables on us and they say v'tzdiku es hatzadik. They re-acclaim to this guy Reuven that he's innocent. They don't know if he's innocent or not, but at least our testimony is worthless. And they turned us into a shayim, basically a regular case of Eid Zomim. Then it says, V'haya im bin hakos harasha. Then it says, im bin hakos harasha. Then you read the next pasuk, which is, you get malchus, which means anytime there's an Eid Zomim situation, we are going to get malchus. Now, Rashi explains over here, Rashi explains, what it means is, Rashi's putting a little bit of words in the Gemara. What the Gemara is saying, not every time there's an Eid Zomim do you get Malchus, but what it's saying is, if it's a situation, because again, we have a different psukim in the Torah that say, anytime you're in Eid Zomim, kasher zamam. We do to you what you try doing. But if it's a situation where you cannot do kasher zamam, then the Torah is saying, you're going to get Malchus based on this pasuk. V'haya im bin hakos harash is telling me specifically, go give them Malchus. So this is the source. This is what Ula wanted to know. If you're not able to perform the punishment of, quote, kasher zamam, so the next best thing, at least, give them malchus. And that's what these two psukim are referring to. The psukim are saying, if you're caught to be an Eid Zomim, and we can't do kasher zamam to you, because if it's kasher zamam, that's a different parsha in the Torah. If we can't do kasher zamam, at least give the guy malchus. This is the source. To which the Gemara asks, but typically, why don't you learn it out, me, from, quote, lo sanem? There's a pasuk in the Torah. It's actually one of the Aseres Adibros. It says, "Lo sane b'reacha eit shaker." You're not allowed to say bad testimony, false testimony about your friend. Now we know, and this we'll see very much a lot in the third parak. Anytime the Torah says a lav, the Torah says you're not allowed to do something. Lo, don't do it. If you do it, you are going to get malchus. The Torah says don't eat a pig. If somebody eats a pig, obviously if he was warned, he gets malchus, he gets 40 lashes. Any negative commandment, seemingly, which has an action to it, any negative commandment that you were warned about, you do, you're going to get lashes. So the Gemara says, typically, why don't we learn out milo sana? In other words, every Eid Zomim, even though you can't do kasher zamam, but I should be chayiv malchus because of the isser in the Torah of lo sana. You're not allowed to say false testimony. It says in the Torah, lo. Every lo is a negative commandment, which means I should get malchus for that. So the Gemara is asking, what do I need this fancy drush over here? Again, what the goal over here is trying to figure out. How do you know that even by an Eid Zomim, even if you cannot perform the kasher zamam punishment, you still give them malchus? So the Gemara is asking, how do you know that? Know it from these two psukim. Parak Chafei, Pasuk Alf and Beis and Devarim. It's written specifically for that. The Gemara is asking, what do I need that for? It's a specific lav in the Torah that says you're not allowed to lie in testimony. Therefore, I should get malchus for that. The Gemara answers, Mishum dahavi lav she'im b'maisa, because the isser of lo saneh is a lav which does not have an action to it. Chol lav she'im b'maisa in lo lav. Any lav which does not have an action attached to it, you do not get malchus for it. In other words, when we say that if you eat pig, you get malchus, because it says in the Torah, lo saseh, it says a negative commandment, that's because I did an action. I actively went and ate the pig. Saying testimony is not an action, it's only words. Words is not called an action, according to most opinions. Rabbi Kiva actually disagrees, but that's not for now. But most opinions say words is not called an action. So since it's a lav, which is something that is not an action, doesn't have an action to it, you don't get malchus for it. So the Gemara is saying, true, you have transgressed that lav, and it's a bad thing. It's wrong, and God will deal with you in the next world. But can we give malchus for that? We cannot. You only give malchus for a lav, a negative commandment, which has attached to it a action. You did an action. So lo saneh by itself is not enough to give you malchus. It's only because I have this pasuk of v'haya im bin hakos harasha. That pasuk tells me specifically you give malchus in this situation. Parenthetically, if you look at Tosas on Daf Daled Amud Beis, Tosas over there says, if you look at the second to last Tosas on Daled Amud Beis, it says v'rabanan hay lo saneh me'avidlei. Tosas says, the hada amr le'el gabe lo saneh noshav lav she'im b'maisa. Tosas says, when our Gemara says it's a lav she'im b'maisa, you don't get malchus because of lo saneh. Look what Tosas says. Hainu, that means ilav krad v'tztiku. Without the pasuk of v'tztiku, the lav of lo saneh by itself does not require malchus. Avol, basar de goyla krad v'tztiku, the shaykh bei Malchus, yesh lanu loymar delaki milosana. What Tais is saying is, at the end of our discussion, our Gemara, why am I getting Malchus? Tais is saying, you're getting Malchus because of Losana. Gemara says, Losana, you don't get Malchus, the Lav Shem B'maisa. What the Gemara means to say is, Losana, if it just said Losana, you're right, you would not get Malchus. But once it says, our Parsha of Vahaya bin Haksarasha, that reveals to us that now I could give you Malchus because of Losana. Meaning, Losana by itself would not require Malchus. But the bin Haksarasha allows me to say, yes, this specific lav, you will get Malchus, even though it's a lav shein bo ma'aseh. So in other words, the reason I'm telling you this is because when we get to Daf Daled, you'll see the Gemara says, Losana, you get Malchus because of Losana. It seems to contradict our Gemara. So Tai's saying it's not true. The Gemara just means, if it only said Losana, I would not have a right to give you Malchus because of Losana, because it's a lav shein bo ma'aseh. It's a negative commandment without an action. But once I have the bin hakasarasha, that reveals to me that this lav of Losana I could get Malchus for. Good, and that's the end of that. Now we know, so basically the Gemara is going very organized over here. The Mishnah tells us I can't do kasher zamam. Why can I not do kasher zamam in these two cases? Each one because of its specific pasuk. Now Ula is telling us, so how do I know I get Malchus even though I can't do since I can't do kasher zamam? How do I know I get Malchus? That is from these psukim in the Torah, Bahaya in bin Hakos Harasha. Now, the Gemara comes with a bryce over here, Tanur Rabbanan, the second wide line. Tanur Rabbanan, Daled Dvarim Nemru Be'edim Zomim. There's four things said about Eid Zomim. Four halachas. Number one, Ein Nasin Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. An Eid Zomim will never become a Ben Grusha or a Ben Chalutza. Number two, ve'ein golen la'arei miklat. Eid zomim do not go to the refuge city. Number three, ve'ein mishalmim es hakofer. They do not pay kofer. Kofer is basically, if we turn to Parshas Mishpatim over here, these are psukim in the Torah in Parshas Mishpatim. If we could find the pasuk, it says. If you look to Parshas Mishpatim, Parak Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Chaf Tes. What is kofer? Look at Pasuk Chaf Tes. It says over there, it's talking about an ox that gores. It says, V'im shar nagachu. If it's a goring ox, mitmol shalshom. Again, Parak Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Chaf Tes, 21-29 in Shemos. V'lo yishmerena v'hu balav, you warn the owner of lo yishmerena v'hemis ish o isha. So it says, if a person's ox went, and it's not specifically an ox, it's any animal, that went and killed another human being, it says, Hashar Yisakel, you kill the ox needs to be put to death because he's a menace to society. The Gam Baal of Yumas, and you kill the owner. That's literally what it says in the Torah. You kill the owner. My ox went and killed Reuven. He just broke free and he killed Reuven. My ox is going to be put to death. It sounds like I get killed also. The Gemara, which Rashi quotes, the Gemara says obviously it doesn't mean that because I don't get killed. I get killed if I kill somebody, not if my animal kills somebody. Rather, what it means is I have to pay ransom money for myself. I have to redeem my soul. I'm responsible. I am responsible to watch my animals to make sure they don't kill other people. So Gambal of you must is just a way of saying I'm going to have to redeem my death. I'm going to have to redeem myself and pay some sort of compensation to the inheritors of this dead guy, which is really the next pasuk also. It says, Im kofer yushas alav. If you place kofer is literally ransom money. What it means is, I'm going to have to pay money to this family. V'nasim pidyon nafshu, you make a pidyon nafshu. This is a redemption of your soul. Kechosh yushas alav, everything which is placed on you. So basically, if somebody, my ox went and gored somebody and killed him, basically, the halacha is, I need a redemption, so therefore I need to pay a lot of money to this family. That's what the pasuk is saying. Now, our Bryce is saying, in Eid Zomim does not pay kofer. What does it mean, Eid Zomim does not pay kofer? In our example, once again, my friend and myself, we walked into Beis and said, Tuesday in Yerushalayim at 5 o'clock, we saw Reuven's ox kill somebody, and therefore Reuven owes a lot of money to that family. And Bezin laid down the gavel. Bezin says there's a Gemar Din, there's a final psak. Yes, Reuven has to pay it. and then we get caught as Eid Zomim. We said we were found, 2 witnesses said we were found to be in America at that time. So what happens to us? I would have said we should pay kofar now. Whatever amount of money we were trying to make Reuven pay, we should pay. This Bryce is telling me, not true. We are not, in Mishalmas HaKofar, we do not have to pay kofar, which we'll have to talk about why that's true. So this is a third example of where the kasher zamam rule does not apply. Again, you have to realize, even though the Gemara has given you many examples of where you do not do kasher zamam, these are the exceptions to the rule. Everywhere else in the Torah, which is not listed here, whatever you try doing to your friend is going to happen to you. So we're still in the Brisa, number 4, that was number 3. And fourth of all, ve'ein nimkarim be'eved ivri, we are not sold as an eved ivri. What is an eved ivri? If you look at the beginning of Parashas Mishpatim, Perek Chaf Aleph in the Torah, Perek Chaf Aleph of Shmos, but basically it's talking about an eved ivri. An eved ivri is a Jewish person who stole. If he stole and he does not have enough money to pay back what he was caught stealing, he does not have enough money, he is sold as an eved ivri. So again, if he was caught stealing and he's got the money, he's got $100 in his pocket, he just pays back $100, end of story. If he stole a lot of money, he stole $500,000, there's no way he could pay that back. He is sold for 6 years to the master. He's sold for 6 years to somebody, the master. He is sold to this guy, and he's going to have to pay back basically the stuff that he stole. He's sold to this guy who he stole from. Now, back to our example. Let's say in Eid Zomim, we testified about Reuven that he stole $500,000 and he needs to be sold as an Eved Ivri. We get caught. The halacha is we are not sold as Eved Ivris. I do not get sold as an Eved. Also, it needs clarification why. So that is the fourth thing. And Mishum Rabbi Kiva, in the name of Rabbi Kiva, said, Af ein mishalmim al pi atzman. You do not pay as an Eid Zomim by yourself. What that means is, we have a rule when it comes to a knas, which we will talk about. That is the end of the brisa, first of all. And the brisa, period. We have a rule when it comes to a knas, anything that is a fine, which is not a compensation for something which is a fine. The pasuk says, if the judges obligate you to pay it. We learn from there that if somebody admits to a fine before people testified about him. The guy walks into Beis Din and the guy says, I owe this and this fine. The halacha is he is off the hook. He does not have to pay it. It's learned out in Gemara in Baba Kama. The pasuk says, Asher Yershu'un Elohim. If the judges turn you evil, the judges make you, obligate you to pay. It's talking about a fine. That excludes if you admit to the fine before you are accused, then you are off the hook. Rabbi Kiva says a very interesting chiddush over here. If my friend and myself were caught to be Eid Zomim, and before Beis Din had a chance to give out the punishment to us, we left Beis Din. I walk in and I never got the kasher zamam punishment to myself. They never got a chance to do it to me. I walk into another Beis Din and says, I'd like you guys to know, a different Beis Din. I said, I'd like you to know, me and my friend were caught to be Eid Zomim. Can you please do the kasher zamam punishment to us? The halacha is we are off the hook. Because, as we'll see, Rabbi Kiva holds that is a knas. The fact that you do kasher zamam to me is not a compensation. How is he compensated from the fact that I get killed or that I lose money as an Eid Zomim? Rather, it's a knas, it's a fine to make sure you don't do it ever again. And therefore, if you admit to a fine before somebody testified on you, then you are off the hook. That's why Rabbi Kiva says this. So again, let's just go through Brisa real quickly now that we know everything. Tanar Rabbanan, Dalad Dvarim number Eid Zomim. 4 things about Eid Zomim. Number 1, Ein Nasim Ben Grushim Ben Chalutza. They do not become a Ben Grushim Ben Chalutza. They don't become a Halal. Number 2, Ein Golem Larei Miklat. You don't go to the refuge city. Number 3, Ein Mishalmes HaKofar. If we are caught, we do not have to pay the ransom money, which we were trying to put on Reuven. And number 4, Ein Nimkarim Be'eved Ivri. We are not sold as an Eved Ivri. Mishum Rabbi Kiva, Amru Neiv Rabbi Kiva, they said, Af Ein Misham Piatzman. We don't pay based on our own account, on our own story. Period. Full stop. End of brisa. Now, we're going to go one by one through this. Number 1, Ein Nasim Ben Grushim Ben Chalutza. How do you know you don't become a Ben Grushim Ben Chalutza? Kida Amran, like we said. That's what we learned last time. Because the pasuk says, Vasisa kasha zamam kasha, Vasisa lo, you do to him kasha zamam. Only me, don't punish my kids. Number 2, the Brisa says, "V'in gon la'ari miklat." You do not go to an ari miklat. Kid Amran, like we said, that's what we started with over here. It says, "Hu yanus." He flees. A murderer flees to an ari miklat. Eidim zomim don't go to ari miklats. Number 3, v'ein misham es hakofer. The third thing is, you do not pay kofar. Why do I not pay kofar? Why do I not pay the ransom money? Again, the case is, my friend and myself testified about Reuven that his animal killed somebody, and therefore he is obligated to pay $100,000 to the family as compensation. And then we get caught, it does not boomerang back at us. I do not have to pay that. Why not? Mishum, Kasavri, this brisa seems to hold, Kasavri, they hold, Kufra kapara. The kofar, the ransom money that we are paying, is a kapara. It's an atonement for me. When somebody's animal kills, the reason he's paying it is because it's an atonement. Fahani, and these enim zomim, la b'nei kapara, we are not people who need atonement. In other words, I don't need an atonement for killing a soul because I didn't kill anybody. Normally, when your animal kills a human being, you need a lot of atonement because you made a Jewish person die. Even though you didn't do it directly, you goofed on your shmirah, you didn't watch the animal well, you deserve a punishment. So to atone for your neshama, you need to pay kofar. In Eid Zomim, he's a bad person. He lied in Bezin. But I didn't kill anybody. And my animal didn't kill anybody. I don't need a kapara. I don't need this atonement. Therefore, I do not have to pay the kofar. That's what the Gemara says. And notice, the chiddush over here is that when you pay the kofar, it's not a compensation. It's not like an insurance policy where it's a compensation where now there's nobody to work in the family and therefore you owe the family money. It's not for the family's sake. It's for my sake because my animal killed somebody. I need an atonement. Now, the Gemara says, Man tana kofar kapara. Who's the one who says that kofar is kapara? Who's this author of a brisa that says that kofar is an atonement? Maybe you could learn it's just a compensation. Who says it's an atonement? Amar Chizah, Rabbi Shmuel Benosha Brocha, Rabbi Shmuel Benosha Brocha Brocha. It's Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yochanan Brocha. Who's that? Titania, as we learned in a brisa. There's a brisa quoted in Masechta Bava Kama. It says, back to our pasuk in Mishpatim, Parak Chaf Aleph, Shmos Chaf Aleph, pasuk Lamed. It says, Im kofer yushas alav. If you place the ransom money on him, v'nasan pidyan nafsho. He will give the pidyan nafsho, which means the redemption of his soul. I pay the redemption of my soul. So Rabbi Shmuel says, Tanya v'nasan pidyan nafsho, demei nizak. The Tanakama says, not Rabbi Shmuel, the Tanakama says, demei nizak. This is the money of the nizak. What does that mean? What you do is you evaluate the fellow who was killed, how much was he worth, and I pay that. I, the guy whose animal killed him, I have to pay the worth of him. Evaluate how much would he have been worth as a eved, and I owe that to the family. Rabbi Shmuel Benosha Brocha, Rabbi Shmuel Benosha Rabbi Yochanan Brocha Omer, the main mazik, he says, no, I pay my worth. So there's a very big, that's the end of the brisa. Very big machlokas here. When the Torah says you pay kofar, what do you pay? You pay the worth of a person. Is it the worth of the dead guy or the worth of the owner of the ox? The Tanakama says it's the worth of the dead guy. Rabbi Shmuel says no, it's actually the worth of the guy whose animal killed. Now, what's that argument? What are they arguing about? Whether it's him or me. My love, the Gemara says, is it not? The Gemara is suggesting. Similarly, they're arguing about the following. The Mar Savar Kufra Mamona. The Tanakama, Mar means the first master over here, the first opinion of the Brisa says, Kufra Mamona. Atonement is a compensation. It's not an atonement, it's a compensation. Therefore, if it's a compensation, we need to know what his worth is. This poor family there is missing their father, husband, whatever it is, and therefore evaluate how much he was worth, and I need to pay that back. I'm trying to fill the void of what I caused the family to lose. Umar Savra and Rabbi Shmuel holds Kofra Kapar. Rabbi Shmuel says, no. When you're paying the Kofra over here, what the Torah is saying is, I'm not trying to make up the loss over there. I need an atonement. I'm redeeming my soul over here. I really should be put to death because my animal killed another Jewish soul. Therefore, I really deserve to die. As an atonement, so I don't have to die, I could redeem myself by paying some money. How much money do I pay? evaluate me, figure out how much I'm worth, because I'm atoning for my soul. Nothing to do with that guy. He happens to be the recipient of being killed. But I need to be put to death to, so to speak, ransom myself out of death. Therefore, I need to pay the kofar. Therefore, you evaluate by me. So what the Gemara is suggesting is, again, we said our brisa seems to be holding that kofar is an atonement. It's not a compensation money. It's an atonement. The Gemara is saying, seemingly, it's authored by Rabbi Shmuel, because we have Makkot in the brisa. Do you pay the guy who's killed's worth, or the killer's worth? Not the killer, but the guy who owned the animal. Seemingly, the Makkot over there is only one opinion holds its kapara, and our brisa is authored by Rabbi Shmuel. That's what the Gemara would like to suggest. Amar Papa. So in other words, the Gemara is saying that our brisa can only be Rapapa, because the Tanakama would not be like our brisa. Amar Papa, Rapapa says, no, it's not true. Tikuli alma kofra kapara. Rabbi Shmuel says, no, it could be everybody holds kofar as kapara. Meaning, whether you are the Tanakama in that brisa who says you evaluate the dead guy's worth, or you are the Rabbi Shmuel who says you evaluate my worth, the guy who owns the ox. Either way, both of them hold its kapara. So what's the argument? And therefore, our first brisa could really be both Tanaim. Here they're arguing about something else. One says you evaluate the nizak, the damagee. And this one says you do the mazik. You evaluate by the mazik. What's going on over here? What the Gemara Papa is saying is, it could be everybody holds it's an atonement. But the question is, how do I atone for my soul? How do I atone for the punishment which I deserve? I deserve to be put to death. And again, I don't actually get put to death because I didn't kill him with my own hands. But there's something deep going on over here that I cause by some negligence over here that somebody died. I need some sort of atonement. Everybody agrees to that I need an atonement. And the money I'm paying is as an atonement. But the question is, how do I get my atonement? The Tanakhama says the way you get your atonement is cough up whatever money that guy was worth. That's how you'll be atoned. And Rabbi Shmuel says, no. The way you get your atonement is if I pay my worth. I have to redeem my nefesh. So Rav Papa's chiddush is, this isn't an argument about whether the kofar is mammon compensation or whether it's kapara. Everybody agrees it's kapara. The question is, how do you get your kapara? Do you get your kapara by paying your own worth? Or do you get your kapara by paying atone for what you did, and what you did over there was that guy's dead, so pay his worth. So it's a very nice argument, even if they both hold kapara. Now the Gemara just goes on. The Gemara says, my time out the Rabbanan. What's the reason of the Rabbanan? What Rashi explains, what the Gemara is asking is, seemingly Rabbi Shmuel is right, that what the pasuk means to say is, v'nasan pidyon nafsho, I should redeem my soul. So if I'm redeeming my soul, figure out how much I am worth, not that guy. So the Gemara is asking, Rabbi Shmuel seemingly is right, so what's the reason of the Rabbanan? Why do the Rabbanan argue? So the Gemara answers, Nemar hashasa lamat. It says the word yushas below. Nemar hashasa lamalan, it says it above. Above is referring to, when it talks about the pasuk over here is, just get the exact pasuk. It is in Shemos Chaf Aleph Chaf Beis. If you look at the pasuk Chaf Beis, Shmos Per Chaf Aleph Chaf Beis says, Chiyanatzu Anashim. If two people fight, if a nagfu ishahara, they hit a pregnant woman. Yatzla devla yasan anish yanish kashi yashis Allah balisha. Basically, you hit a pregnant woman. She has a miscarriage because of that. Kasher yashis Allah balisha v'nasam v'flim. You basically have to pay the worth of the dead fetus. Now it says of the word over there, the word yashis. Now that's very similar to the word by us in pasuk lamed, asher yushas alav. Same word. Now over there, it clearly means you pay for the worth of the fetus. You hit a pregnant woman and the fetus came out. She had a miscarriage. Over there, for sure means demei nizak. So the Tanakama is comparing these two things. And again, Namra Shasal Mat, it says Hashasa before, Namra Shasal Mala Halan, just like over there, Bidin Nizik, over there it clearly means the worth of the dead children. Afkan Bidin Nizik, so too over here, when it says by our Pasuk Lamed, Kofer Yushas Alav, it means the worth of the Nizak, it means the damagee. So that's why the Rabbanan say, even though it is an atonement for my soul, the way you will get your atonement is if you pay the worth of the damagee. Rabbi Shmuel, what does Rabbi Shmuel say? The quote, V'nasan pigeon nafsho, end quote, ksiv, it says. Rabbi Shmuel says, very nice drasha, but Lamaisa, it says over here, V'nasan pigeon nafsho, in Pasuk Lamed, give the redemption of your soul. Redemption of your soul sounds like the worth of your soul. So pay your worth. Rabbi Shmuel is saying, I'm not impressed by this Gzera Shavar, whatever it is that you're learning out over there. It's the worth of the Nizak. Because it says, redeem yourself, redeem your nefesh. How do you redeem your nefesh? Paying your worth. So Rabbi Shmuel says, that's what the Pasuk says. To which the Gemara says, V'Rabbanan, the Rabbanan will answer, yes, pigeon nafsho. If you're right, it says the word pigeon nafsho. Miyu, nevertheless, ki shaminan bid nizik shaminan. Rather, when we evaluate with the nizik. The Rabbanan argue back to Rabbi Shmuel and they say, we agree it's an atonement for your soul. But how do you get an atonement for your soul? It doesn't tell you to pay your worth. An atonement for your soul is by paying the worth of the nizik. You did a bad thing. You had a guy killed. Therefore, pay his worth, and that will give you an atonement for your soul. So, if we stop right here, what happened over here? Basically, we have a machlokas in this brisa. According to the Tanakama, you pay the worth of the nizik. According to Rabbi Shmuel, you pay the worth of the mazik. Mazik is the damager. Nizik is the damagee. What's the reason of Rabbi Shmuel? Very simple. Rabbi Shmuel says, it says in the Torah, this isn't a redemption for your soul. So pay your worth. The Rabbanan say, yes, it is a redemption for my soul, but the way I redeem my soul is by making up the loss I caused to that family, and therefore, I'm going to have to pay his worth. But what Rav Papa is trying to tell you in the big scheme of things, they both agree it's an atonement. So the question is, how do I get my atonement? Through that or that? And getting back to the original brisa with the 4 halachas about the Eid Zomim, so now we understand why, if I am caught, my friend and myself say that Reuven is chayv to pay kofar, I do not pay kofar, even though I'm caught, because I don't need an atonement. I didn't kill anybody. Therefore, we will get malchus, but we don't have to pay kofar. Now, the 4th halacha in that brisa, which we quoted, was, number 4, Ein nimkarim be'eved ivri. We are not sold as an eved ivri. Again, the scenario is, my friend and myself, we both came to Beis Din and said, in Yerushalayim at Tuesday at 5 o'clock, we saw Reuven over here stealing money, $500,000, he owes it. He's got no money, he's sold as an eved ivri. Beis Din lays down the law, that's what should happen. Before it actually happened, 2 witnesses come and say, we are lying, we were somewhere else at that time. Now, we do not get sold as an eved ivri, which is a chiddush. I would have said, kasher zamam, that we should get sold as an eved ivri. So, now the Gemara says, Ve'enim kam be'eved ivri, savar Rav Hamnuna l'meimer. Rav Hamnuna at first thought to say the following, that hani mili, these words apply only hecha de islay lididei, only where islay didei, he has money. In other words, we testified he owes $500,000. He's got $500,000 in the bank. The migu, that since the ihu lon is davin, since he's not going to be sold as an eved ivri, inhu nami lom is davin, we also are not sold. In other words, Rav Hamnuna thought, not like we just explained, but Rav Hamnuna thought at first, when he saw this brisa, that we are not sold as an eved ivri. What's that referring to? It's referring to a case where we testified that he stole $500,000. And he happens to have that in his bank. I and my friend do not have $500,000. So what were we trying to do? We were trying to make him obligated $500,000. Now, we get caught. So Beis Din says, okay, you guys owe $500,000. Problem is, we don't have that money. So should we get sold as an eved ivri? So Rav Hamnuna thought the chiddush of the brisa over here, what the brisa is telling me is that even though we don't have the money, and technically I would say throw the book at us and we should get what we planned doing to our friend, we should be sold as an eved ivri. The brisa is telling me no, we are not sold as an eved ivri. Why? Why are we not sold as an eved ivri? Because we could say, I wasn't trying to make him into an eved. I was just trying to make him lose $500,000. I wasn't trying to make him become a servant for somebody. Why should I become a servant? Remember, Torah says, kasher zamam, do exactly what we tried doing. I didn't try making him eved. I tried making him lose $500,000. So make me pay $500,000. I don't have the money. So what, you're going to turn me into an eved? But I didn't try making him eved. So Rav Hamnuna thought that's the case the brisa is saying. Again, let's read that again. Hani mili, these words apply, hecha de islay lididei, only if he has it for himself. Meaning, the Eidim, he has it. Demigu the EU loan is. I'm sorry, where this fellow Reuven has the money. Demigu that since the EU loan is daven, since he is not sold, in hunami loan is davening. They, meaning the witnesses, will also not be sold, even though they don't have money. But Rav Hamnuna said, I understand that's what the brisa means. Avol. But what would be the case? Hecha de lesle the day. Let's say we testified about Reuven that he stole $500,000 and he does not have $500,000. Afal gav de islu didu. Even though we have money, mizdamni, we will be sold. So Rav Hamnuna understood from the brisa what would be if this guy does not have any money. So we get caught. And Beis says, okay, we're going to do kasher zamam. So Beis says, what were you trying to do to that guy? Well, we said he stole $500,000. He doesn't have any money. We were basically trying to make him into an Eved Ivri. Therefore, me and my friend who got caught, we should be sold as an Eved Ivri. Even though I have $500,000 in my pocket, I'm willing to pay it. Tough luck. You tried making him an Eved Ivri, you become an Eved Ivri. That's what Rav Huna thought. So again, Rav Huna, the Brisa clearly says we are not sold as an Eved Ivri. The question is, what's the scenario? Rav Hamnuna thought the reason we're not sold as an Eved Ivri is because we didn't try turning him into an Eved Ivri because he has money. But if let's say he does not have money, where we actually were trying to make him into an Eved Ivri, then we are actually, yes, going to be sold as an Eved Ivri, even though I have money. That's what Rav Hamnuna thought. To which the Gemara asked, that doesn't seem to make sense. For Lemrule, why can't they say to him, why can't the Adam say, me and my friend could say, what do you mean? Why should I become an Eved Ivri? If you would have had, miha mizdamnis, would you have been sold? Anan nami lo mizdavinan, and therefore us also, anan nami means us also, lo mizdavinan, we also are not going to be sold. The Gemara is asking is, Rav Hamnuna, that's a very bad havamina, because what are we saying? We tried making you lose $500,000, and therefore, right? Even that we tried making you into an Eved Ivri, therefore we need to become an Eved Ivri, even though I have $500,000. But why can't we answer? The Gemara says, why can't we say to you, listen, if you would have money, you also would not be an Eved Ivri. So throw that back at us and tell us, either pay $500,000 or be an Eved Ivri. Well, guess what? I have cash in my pocket. Why should I become an Eved Ivri? In other words, if kasher zama means do exactly what you tried doing to that guy, so I tried giving you an option. I testified in Beis Din that you stole $500,000. Now, basically, all I was saying was, I don't know your bank account. All I was saying was, either pay $500,000 or become an Eved Ivri. Now, you happened to not have the money. You were an Eved Ivri. I was trying to make you an Eved Ivri. When you boomerang that back at me, so make the same thing on me, which is, if I don't have money, sell me as an Eved Ivri. But if I do, I should not be paying that money. I'm sorry, if I do, I should not become an Eved Ivri. I should just pay the money. So the Gemara is asking, why can't we say, kasher zama means, do to me, give me the option just like to him. Just like I tried making him either pay or become an Eved Ivri, same thing to me. And since I have money, there's no reason why I should be an Eved Ivri. I'll pay the $500,000. So the Gemara is asking, what's Rav Hamnuna thinking? Ella, the Gemara says rather, so the Gemara is saying, seemingly, what Rav Hamnuna meant to say was as follows. Savar Rav Hamnuna, Hachi Edmar. Actually, they changed the girsa. This is what Rav Hamnuna really meant to say. Savar Rav Hamnuna meant to say that the Brisa is talking about Hani Mili Hecha de Islay Oli Didei Odidu. That Rav Hamnuna originally learned the Brisa was if either he had money at the time or myself and my friend have the money at the time, we are not sold as Eved Ivris if we get caught. Avo. That's how Rav Hamnuna learned the Brisa. Both the cases we said before. Now, Rav Hamnuna understood the Brisa says you're not sold as an Eved Ivri is talking about either he has money, then we won't be sold as an Eved Ivri, because I could say I wasn't trying to make him an Eved Ivri, or even if he doesn't have money, but if we have money, we are not sold as an Eved Ivri. Both those cases are included when the Brisa says you are not sold as an Eved Ivri. Avo. Hecha de lesle lo lididhev lo didhu mistavnin. But Rav Hamnuna thought, but if let's say both of us do not have money, he does not have $500,000, and me and my friend do not have $500,000, there we will be sold. Why? Because what were we trying to do to him? Make him sold as an Eved Ivri. Do we have money? No. We also should be sold as an Eved Ivri. So Rav Nuna thought when the Brisa says you're not sold as an Eved Ivri, does not include this scenario. Because the Brisa is talking about if either he had money and not me, or I have money and not him. Either one of those cases, it makes sense. We should not be an Eved Ivri. But if neither of us have money, of course, we should be sold as an Eved Ivri, just like we're trying to do to him. Amalei Rava, and Rava corrected him and said, no, v'nimkar b'gnevaso amar Rachmana. V'nimkar b'gnevaso, the Torah says he will be sold for his theft, end quote, amar Rachmana, the Torah says. And we learn from there, b'gnevaso, with his theft, v'lo bezamo, but not when he was found to be an Eid Zomim. In other words, the pasuk clearly says, if you are sold for stealing, you do not get sold as an Eved Ivri for saying false testimony. So this is similar to like we saw before. There's a specific exclusion in the Torah to say Eid Zomim does not apply to this. So what Rava is saying is it's irrelevant. He has money, you have money, they don't have money. I don't care. I don't care if nobody has money. You try making him an Eved Ivri. Seemingly Kasher Zamam should say you also should become an Eved Ivri. But since the Torah went out of its way to say big nevaso, that means the only time somebody is sold as an Eved, as a servant, is if he stole. But if you're an Eid Zomim, you are not sold. Period. Therefore, it's irrelevant. Yes, money, no money, it's irrelevant. That's what Rava is saying. Good. If we go a little farther to finish the Brisa said, Mishum Rabbi Kiva Amru. In the name of Rabbi Kiva, they said that an Eid Zomim does not pay on his own mouth. Meaning, if he admitted, again, what it means is, Rashi speaks out. We said testimony. Whatever the testimony was, Reuven killed Shimon, Reuven owes money, whatever it is, it's irrelevant. And then we were caught. Over. We're caught to be Eid Zomim. Before they had the chance to dish out the Kasher Zaman punishment, Beis Din left and whatever, I now go to a different Beis Din and walk in and say, listen, you guys should know that I'm a bad person. I said false testimony. I was caught to be an Eid Zomim. Can you please give me the Kasher Zaman punishment? Rabbi Kiva is saying, I do not get that punishment. That's what it means. Ein misham piasma. You don't pay it based on your own mouth. Only if two other Eidim say, hey, we were sitting in the Beis Din in the back, we saw this whole procedure, we want you to know these guys deserve to get kasher zamamd. Now, why is this? Mishum Rabbi Kiva Amru, my time to Rabbi Kiva. What's the reason of Rabbi Kiva? Kasavra, he holds knasahu. Like we said, Rabbi Kiva holds in Eid Zomim, the punishment is a knas. It's a fine. It's not a compensation for the guy. It's a fine which is levied on the Eidim. The knas ein mishalim al piatzmo. A knas does not pay al piatzmo. Anytime you're doing a knas is not dished out when a person admits to it before witnesses testify about him. That's Rabbi Kiva's opinion. Amar Rabba says, Teda, I'll prove to you that it's a knas. It's not a compensation. Shari lo asu maisa, because they didn't do an action. V'neragin u'mishalmim, and they still either get killed or they pay. Rabbi is just saying very simply, this is not a compensation because, let's think about it, at the end of the day, my friend and myself, we didn't kill anybody, we didn't steal money, we didn't do anything, and somehow I get killed and I have to pay money. That's obviously not a compensation, that's a knas, it's a fine. Fines don't necessarily have to equal the crime. A fine means this is a fine levied on you to make sure you never do this. Compensation means I stole $20, I pay back $20. But over here, nobody lost money because of me. I tried doing it, it didn't work, and still I lose the money. So Rav is saying it's obviously a knas. Amar Rav Nachman says, Teda, I'll prove to you that it's a knas. Sharei mammon biyad bailim, because the money is still in the hands of the owner. I tried testifying that Reuven should pay $500,000 or $20. It's still in his hand, umisham, and still I pay. So Rav Nachman is saying, remember, Eid Zomim, the whole pshat is before it actually happened. It never happened. The guy didn't lose his money. I wanted him to lose his money. I testified that he should lose money, but it didn't work. So Rav Nachman is saying, I'll prove to you it's a knas, because the money's still in the guy's hands, and still I'm paying. So this can't be compensation. This isn't real money. This is obviously a knas. That's what it means. The money is still in the hands of the owner, and still we pay. Me and my friend, the Eid Zomim. The Gemara asks, "My nihu." What do you mean by the fact that it's still in your hands? To lo asumaisa. What you mean to say is basically that you didn't do anything. It didn't work. Your plan, meaning the money, Reuven never lost the money. Is that what you're trying to say? Hainu de Rabba. That's the same thing as Rabba. In other words, Rav Nachman is saying just the same thing. You didn't do an action. Nothing ever happened. You were not successful at what you tried to do. And still you'd pay. That's what you're trying to say. So that's the same thing as Rabba. Gemara says, you're right. Ema say, V'chein Amar Rav Nachman. If you put in the word V'chein before the words Amar Rav Nachman, V'chein means an also. Gemara saying, you're right. Rabba said something, and Rav Nachman saying, yes, I also agree to the same thing, that the money is still in the hands of the owner, and still you don't pay. So both these Amarayim, Rav Nachman and Rabba, are both come to say the same point, which is, I was not successful at what I tried to do. Nobody lost money, nobody died. I was caught before I actually was able to carry out my plan of making the guy lose money, and still I have to pay money. Obviously it's a knas, and therefore I don't pay any money. Therefore, if I admit to it, right, again, after I was caught, if I admit to the punishment, I do not get that punishment, because as a knas, which you don't pay based on yourself. So that is the end of this Gemara for now. If we could just review what happened over here. So we started with the Mishnah on Daf Beis and Beis, but we started with the case of why do you not go to Gullus. So we started with the reason why an Eid Zom does not go to Gullus is because the pasuk says Hu Yanus, only a murderer goes, but not somebody who is an Eid Zomim. We then had Rabbi Yochanan tried saying a Kal V'chomer, which a Kal V'chomer was, if a murderer, a guy who does it on purpose, doesn't go to Gullus, for sure me, who I didn't even murder anybody, I should not go to Gullus. So the Gemara says that's not a good answer, because it could be the murderer does not deserve the honor of getting a atonement. But me, maybe I should get an atonement. I'm not as bad as that guy. So the Gemara said, you're right, go back to the first pshat. Then we had Ula. Ula says, what's the source for an Eid Zomim in the Torah? To which the Gemara says, what do you mean, what's the source? It's a Mefurish pasuk, explicit pasuk. Gemara said, no, what he meant to say is, what's the source that if you cannot do kasher zamam, you still get malchus? And now we brought the pasuk of Tzedikos Tzaddik, which the pasuk is basically saying, if there were 8 zomim and then 2 other witnesses re-established the righteousness of the righteous guy and made us the witnesses into Rishayim, then we get malchus. The Gemara asked, why don't you learn it from Losana? The answer was, it's a lav she'im bo ma'isa, it's a negative commandment without an action, so you don't get malchus for that. We then had the Bryce. The Bryce says 4 things in 8 zom does not apply to 8 zomim. Number 1 is he does not become a ben grusha and ben chalutza, a halal, like we said. We had the reason, like we said last time. He does not go to an ari miklat, like we just said, because of the word hu. Third thing was he does not pay kofar. So what's the reason he does not pay kofar? Because kofar is an atonement, and I don't need an atonement. I didn't kill anybody. I the 8 zomim. And number 4, and one second, and before that, the Gemara went off on that, and the Gemara says, seemingly that's only Rabbi Shmuel, who says that you pay the worth of the mazik. The Gemara says, no, it could be everybody agrees that the kofra is an atonement. Machlokas is, how do you get your atonement? Paying for the nizik's worth or the mazik's worth? That was a machlokas Rabbi Badan and Rabbi Shmuel. Fourth thing is, einim karm be'evet ivri. You are not sold, the 8 zomim not sold as an evet ivri. Why is he not sold as an evet ivri? The end of the day, the bottom line is, Rava tells us because it says, "V'nimkar big nevaso," you will be sold for your being a theft. For theft, you are not sold for being an evet ivri. You're not sold for being an 8 zomim. Therefore, irrelevant. He has money, you have money, you both have money, neither has money. It's irrelevant. You never get fined with the fine of turning into an evet ivri, except when you steal, but not if you're an 8 zomim. And the last thing we just had is Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva says 8 zomims do not pay based on their own words, because since it's a knas, we don't give out knas based on your own words, only if Adam testify about it. And we have Rabba and Rav Nachman. Tell me why. Rabba and Rav Nachman both saying the same thing, because nobody lost money because of me. Nobody died. Again, if they would actually die and they actually paid money, actually I'm not punished for whatever reason. Kasher zaman velo kasher asa. But the regular case of kasher zaman is when the guy didn't lose any money. So it's obviously a knas, it's not a compensation. And therefore, Rabbi Kiva says, since it's a knas, you do not pay based on your own words.